Hi, I'm Bill Reichert. I'm a partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures. You know, at Pegasus, we want to make sure that every entrepreneur has the chance to be successful. So we want to share some of our insights on what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur with all of you out there. And so today, what we're going to talk about are the critical factors for raising venture capital. What I want to do today is give you an inside peek into the investment committee meetings at venture capital firms to let you know how it is that venture capital firms assess a startup company. So I'm going to share with you the 7 critical factors for raising venture capital. So every venture firm has a slightly different scorecard. So, you know, some may have 8, some may have 5. But what I wanted to do today was give you the 7 factors that pretty much everyone pays a lot of attention to when they're assessing a startup company. So what are those 7 critical factors? Number 1, what do you think is the number 1 factor that VCs look at when they're trying to assess a startup company? What's the number 1 factor? You know, some entrepreneurs, they hear VCs say, you know, team, some think it's technology. The number 1 factor is you've got to have a compelling value proposition. A compelling value proposition means that your prospective customers are going to look at your product, your service, your offering, and they're going to say, wow, that's amazing, because the benefits, the value you deliver to your customers are substantial and obvious. So if you're selling to enterprises or you're selling to small business or individuals or professionals, whoever you're selling to, you have to make the case that you have a value proposition that makes it worthwhile for the customer to buy your product or service. And if that value proposition is obvious and substantial, and even better, if it's measurable, quantifiable, then that makes you all the more attractive to your customers. So as investors, what we care about is, can you acquire customers and grow to be a big company rapidly? The better your value proposition, the more compelling your value proposition, the easier it's going to be for you to acquire customers, the faster you're going to grow, the bigger you're going to get, and therefore, the more attractive you are as an investment opportunity. So what we want to know, and what we want to hear, is that absolutely you have a compelling value proposition that is going to cause your customers to fall in love. It's going to cause your customers to say, I can't live without this new product or service that you're offering. That's number 1. So number 2, you hear this all the time, but it's really important, which is you've got to have an extraordinary team. Now, we don't necessarily mean that you have to have a world-class team day 1. If you do have a world-class team day 1, that is fantastic. But most early-stage companies, you have a great initial team. What we want to see is that you have a great team that is going to be able to attract and build a world-class team. So what do we look for in an extraordinary team? What we look for in an extraordinary team is this thing we call a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? A growth mindset means that you are open to all sorts of possibilities. So if you have an attitude that you know the right way to do it, you're not going to change no matter what, who cares what the market says, who cares what the customers say, that's not a good kind of entrepreneur mindset. A growth mindset says that you are open to the possibility that maybe you're going to have to adjust along the way. A growth mindset means that maybe you're not the only smart person on the planet, and that it would be great to go recruit and hire other really smart people. In fact, ideally, even smarter than you are. So that's the kind of mentality we want to see in a founding team, in the entrepreneurial team. And we want to see that you are customer focused. Customer focused means you're not narrowly focused on your product or your technology. You're focused on delivering value to the customers. That's why the value proposition is number 1. And then the team with a growth mindset and a customer-centric orientation is next most important. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs ask the question, so what do you look for in an entrepreneur? What do you look for in a team? A lot of VCs, a lot of speeches, a lot of panels, they say, we want to see passion, we want to see vision. Yeah, we want to see passion, we want to see vision, but really what we want to see are these three key characteristics. We want to see, one, that the team is savvy. So believe it or not, we are more interested in savvy than in smart. What's the difference between savvy and smart? Well, smart entrepreneurs are the ones that always did great in school, they always got great scores, they have great resumes, and they have been told they always have the right answer. And so if you're a smart entrepreneur, you have to have the right answer. But the challenge in being an entrepreneur is you don't know how things are necessarily going to play out. You can't always have the right answer. So you've got to have this mindset that is what we call the savvy mindset, which is, I may not know the right answer, but I know how to get it. I know how to figure it out. It's a problem-solving mindset. That's what savvy is. It's great if you're savvy and smart, but savvy is more important than smart. So the other thing we're looking for is persistence. So persistence means that you are going to keep going as many times as you need to, no matter how many people keep saying no to you, no matter how many people say, you're out of your mind. You have this persistence to keep going and going and going. If you're not persistent and things get tough, then you're going to give up. And as an investor, we're going to lose our money. So we want to know that you're going to keep going as long as it takes to get there from here. And the third related characteristic is resilience. So resilience is sort of the related characteristic to persistence. Resilience means that when you get knocked down, when you get whacked, when things go wrong, you can pick yourself up, you can dust yourself off, and you can keep going. So savvy, persistent, resilient entrepreneurs is what we're looking for, with a growth mindset and a customer-centric orientation. The third thing that we're looking for is, of course, the market opportunity. Now, most entrepreneurs get this wrong. Most entrepreneurs think when we're talking about market opportunity, they think we're talking about market size. Size is relevant, but it's almost always the least relevant aspect of the market opportunity. So unfortunately, because a lot of coaches tell entrepreneurs, those VCs, they want a unicorn. And so you got to go have a multi-billion-dollar business. And so they go out and they construct these numbers that say, our total addressable market is $56 billion. That's pretty much irrelevant. Almost every market is big enough. It's hard to think of a market these days that's not big enough to build a big, profitable, successful company. But the market isn't just about size, it's about the opportunity. Every startup company starts from zero, right? And so the issue is not the total size of the market. The issue is your ability to acquire customers, your ability to acquire customers at a speed and at a cost that is attractive enough that you can become a big, profitable company. So focus on the opportunity of the market. What that means is that we want you to be able to tell us who are the target customers you're going after. Very, very, very specifically. There's only going to be some percentage of the market that where the customers are going to say, yeah, this particular solution is really compelling to us. Almost never is there any sort of product, solution, or offering that is compelling to everyone in the market. So you've got to focus in on the customers that are going to be most relevant to your business, and then tell us how you're going to acquire them. How much is it going to cost? How are you going to reach them? How are you going to convert them? How are you going to support them? How are you going to upsell them? That's what makes for a market opportunity. It's more important that you go after a good market than that you go after a big market. A good market is a market that has a beachhead opportunity where you can establish an initial presence and you can grow rapidly. So that's what we want to see from you, that you understand exactly where the customers are who are ready, willing, and able to buy your solution. So that's the third criterion. Fourth criterion has to do with technology and your ability to leverage technology to create something new and compelling. Now, again, most entrepreneurs, particularly with the engineering background, think that technology is the be-all and end-all, and they are so excited about their cool technology. Cool technology is great, we love it, but it's only good enough if it delivers a value proposition that is compelling. Back to criterion number 1. So now, technology innovation is very valuable as a means to leverage your business to make it more profitable, to enable you to grow faster, to give you a competitive advantage. There's all sorts of ways in which technology can enable you to grow a big, successful company. But technology alone is not a critical factor. It's your ability to take technologies, innovate a new product that enables you to deliver something unique and valuable that nobody else can deliver yet. Now, not every successful company is a technology company, if you think about it. Fundamentally, Facebook is not a technology company. It's a social network that happens to use, the internet and the World Wide Web. But Facebook is not well known for developing amazing new technologies. They just used a bunch of technologies that were already available. Uber is not a technology company. Airbnb is not a technology company. So a lot of very successful companies are not technology innovators. They just use technology to enable things that they can deliver that are better, faster, more profitable, more compelling than the last generation of solutions. So what is your technological innovation that enables you to deliver something unique and compelling to your customer base? The fifth criterion is your competitive advantage. So frequently, your competitive advantage is related to your technology. So, for example, Intel developed the microprocessor. They invented the microprocessor. And so that gave them a really compelling competitive advantage based on technology. But as I said before, not every company's competitive advantage is based on innovative technology. It is frequently based on putting together other technologies in a novel way. But what we want to see is that you understand where it is that you have a sustainable competitive advantage. We talk about it as an unfair advantage. I mean, that sounds a little bit funny, but believe it or not, we want you to have an unfair advantage, which means an advantage that nobody else has access to, an advantage that gives you a head start or some degree of separation from any other competitors that is not easily duplicated. So frequently an unfair advantage is technology, that you have some core technology, some technological innovation that enables you to deliver things that are faster, that are cheaper, that are better, that are more reliable. So frequently the technology, the competitive advantage can be a technology advantage. But sometimes your unfair advantage is something else, like, for example, a relationship with a big company that is exclusive that nobody else has. Or it could be a team of people that have backgrounds and connections, domain expertise, and network relationships that would be very, very hard to copy. So your ability to get partners, to get distribution, to get out to the customer base and convert them efficiently may depend a lot on your relationships in the marketplace. Or, for example, another competitive advantage could be you have a Nobel laureate on your team, or you have somebody of such extraordinary reputation that they can get in any door that they knock on. So that can be a really important unfair advantage. If some member of your team has these relationships out there that gives you access to the market, that is going to be a lot easier than any other competitor is going to be able to replicate. So criterion number 5, we want to see that you have a sustainable competitive advantage, that you have an unfair advantage that is not easily copied. Then criterion number 6, we want to see that you also have a financial advantage or an economic advantage. So we're going to drill down into your business model, into the economics of your business, into your financial projections, and we're going to want to see that your economics are compelling. So what makes for compelling economics? What we're going to look at, what we're going to want to know that you're going to be able to share is your CAC and your LTV, your unit economics. Your CAC is your customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost to acquire an incremental customer? So if that cost is extraordinarily large, it's going to be hard for you to be profitable. The other number we want to look at is what's called LTV or CLTV, which stands for customer lifetime value. So once you acquire a customer, what sort of economics does that customer relationship deliver to you? So LTV is the gross margin or the gross profit contribution that a customer delivers when they pay you. If they pay you once or they pay you on a subscription basis, whatever the model is, you've got to calculate, the lifetime value of a customer, taking into consideration that some customers you're going to be able to upsell and retain for years. Other customers you may just have for a few months and then they go away. So we want to see that you understand the way to think about the underlying economics. Obviously, the lifetime value of a customer has got to be greater than the cost to acquire a customer. So that's just sort of minimum stakes. When you're just starting out, that may not be true. It actually may not be there yet. But you've got to show that you have a pathway to economics where the lifetime value of a customer is 4 times, 8 times, 20 times the cost to acquire a customer. Because if it isn't some significant multiple, it's going to be really hard for you to generate the cash to grow and to generate profitability downstream. So unit economics are key in terms of our perspective on your financial advantage. And then the other aspect of financial advantage and economics is looking into your underlying financial projections. How much capital is it going to cost to grow your company through each stage of achievement? So generally, as VCs, we see customers evolving in these phases of inflection points, major milestones that you hit. So your seed round is going to take you to a level of revenues with customers that, generally we talk about sort of this 1 million annual revenue threshold before you can go out for a Series A investment. So we want to see with the seed round that you're going to get to a level of revenues that you can raise the next round. That means you've proven the product market fit for your company. You've been able to acquire customers, retain customers, grow the revenue. That's something that you should achieve with your seed funding. Then Series A funding, we're going to want to see that you get to the next milestone. Now, again, different companies, that milestone may be different. It may be version 2 of your product. It may be a new geography. It may be a revenue target. But we want to see that with the capital we invest, you're going to get to an inflection point in the value of your company such that the next round of investors are going to say, wow, this company is worth 2 or 3 or 4 times as much as it was in the previous round. So that's the other financial advantage that we want to see that you're thinking about when you're asking investors for capital. So that determines how much capital you need to raise, and it should define what you're going to do with that capital. Now, most entrepreneurs, when we ask them, what are you going to do with capital? They put together some pie chart about sales and engineering and G&A. That's not what we care about. We don't care about how it gets split up in your functional areas. When we ask you, how are you going to use this capital? What we want to hear is that you're going to use it to get to this milestone. That's an amazing milestone. So talk about how you're going to use the capital to get to this milestone, to get to this inflection point. Don't talk about how much is going to go for paper clips and chairs, and how much is going to go for, sales and marketing and G&A. Talk about getting to key milestones. So that's the 6th criterion. And then the 7th criterion is there convincing evidence that what you're saying is true? So this is generally your traction. So it depends on where you are in your development. So if you're already at revenues, you have product, you have revenues, you have customers, that convincing evidence is going to be your customer acquisition. How many customers have you gotten, and do they indeed love your product? What's your churn? What's your net customer retention? We're going to look at those metrics. If you're pre-revenue, traction's a little bit harder, right? And so we're looking for other indications of credibility. In a life sciences business, it may be years before you get a product to market. So how do we judge, the convincing evidence? Well, it's some combination of the unique intellectual property you have and the amazing talent that you've been able to attract, and a pathway to a breakthrough achievement that, is not easy for any other team to duplicate. So there are all sorts of ways we look for determining the credibility of what you're talking about, for being convinced, for acquiring evidence. We will talk to your customers, we'll talk to your advisors, we'll talk to your angel investors or your other investors. We'll talk to possible distributors. We will talk to industry experts. We'll talk across your world to try to get convincing evidence that what you're saying is true and what you are promising is likely to happen. So that's the 7th criteria. We are also looking for other signals. There's sometimes, it's because, especially if you're pre-revenue or early, or if you're in a geography that we're less familiar with, what we're going to be looking for probably is sort of some other bona fides or other reputation that you've established both as a team and in terms of people who support you, your advisory board, your board of directors, and early investors. So the early investors that you acquire are going to be an important signal for us as to whether or not you've been able to be successful at raising capital from quality sources of capital, and whether or not those investors are happy with what you've delivered. Are they going to follow on in the next round? So all of those factors we take into consideration when we're determining the credibility, when we're gathering the evidence to determine the credibility and the attractiveness of your company as an investment opportunity. So those are the 7 key criteria. Now, you may have noticed I skipped over a couple of things that generally investors ask you to talk about when you're talking about your company. So this is not an outline for your PowerPoint pitch. This is an outline of how we're going to score you. But what is it that we didn't pay attention to that we ask you about nevertheless? So there are a few things that are key in your presentation, in your pitch, in the way you talk about your company, that are only supportive of the critical criteria we look for. So for example, you notice I didn't talk about your problem and how big your problem is or how important your problem is. The fact of the matter is, there are plenty of problems out there, and there are plenty of big problems out there. And you can say you're going to go cure cancer because cancer is a big problem, but we're not going to bet anything on your company just because you're trying to cure cancer. We're going to look at all those other factors. The other thing I didn't talk about is the specific solution you're offering. Why didn't I talk about your specific solution? Well, because it's not the product, it's not the technology that you deliver that is important in whether or not you're going to be successful. It's the value proposition. And so remember I said the number one criterion is value proposition. That is sort of built into your product or service offering, but it's the value proposition, not the product itself, that we consider to be the most important. Remember, customers do not buy products. Customers buy benefits. So we focus on the benefit you're offering, not the specific product, when we're evaluating your company. And then the other thing I didn't talk about was business model. Hey, Bill, don't you care if we're SaaS or we're B2C or a B2B? don't you care about that? Well, of course we care about that, but the only way it matters is in the advantage that it gives you. Does it give you a competitive advantage? Do you have an unfair advantage in your business built into your business model because you've got some exclusive distribution? Or do you have some amazing economics, some financial advantage that's built into your business model because of what you're able to charge and because of the efficiency of your customer acquisition? So it's what your business model enables that we're focused on. We're going to drill into your business model. We're going to pay a lot of attention to your business model, but what we're going to score you on is the competitive advantage and the financial advantage and the convincing evidence, not the design of the business model into itself. So just want to make it clear how the criteria differ from all of the factors of your business plan that you have to pay attention to. So those are the top 7 criteria that you've got to nail in order to raise venture capital from a venture capital firm. You've got to have a compelling value proposition. You have to have an extraordinary team. You have to have a good market opportunity, a market opportunity that enables you to get started, acquire customers rapidly, and grow to be a big, profitable company. It doesn't have to be a big market. It has to be a good market. You've got to have some technological innovation you can leverage to facilitate the rest of your business. You've got to have an unfair competitive advantage, a financial advantage, and you have to deliver convincing evidence that what you are promising you can ultimately fulfill. So those are the critical factors for raising venture capital. I hope that clarifies for you what goes on inside the investment committee meeting at a venture capital firm. And of course, if you have any questions, you know where to find us. Happy to hear from you all. Thank you very much.